Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. So, big episode today. Big episode, got a lot going on. So let's start out right out of the gate. No news, go right into the first of three reviews. The first of three reviews we have, let's start with The Boys. The Boys on Amazon, which season 2 is coming September 4th. If you have not watched the show already because you don't have Amazon Prime or you don't have an interest in watching the show because you feel that the nature of deconstructing superheroes is inherently something that you're not entirely interested in, this show does it very well. Where basically the concept behind it is there's the Justice League, and every character has a Justice League analog. There's, what's it called? Homelander is obviously Superman. Queen Maeve is obviously Wonder Woman. The Deep is obviously Aquaman. A-Train, The Flash. Who are the other two? The Invisible Guy, who's, not really part of it, past the first episode, second episode, doesn't quite have an analog, and neither does Starlight. But the basic premise is, we have this Justice League. They are owned and operated by a, owned and operated by a private company. And this company is trying to get it so that way they can militarize superheroes. And the concept is, this guy, the main character, Huey, his girlfriend gets killed on accident by one of the superheroes, and as a result, he sets out on a mission to get revenge with Carl Urban's Billy Butcher and the other members of this small team that's designed to kill superheroes. And it's a very interesting story because there's no character in this that how do I put that? Because you feel some sympathy for what's his name, obviously, for Huey, because he kind of gets forced into the situation to an extent, and he doesn't really he makes his own decisions, but he it's kind of like he falls into the story, for lack of a better word. He's there as an accidental bystander, but you kind of get that, you get why he's there. You understand why he's there. And you can kind of understand why everyone's so, messed up. And every character in this is messed up to some degree. Billy has his issues with what happened with his wife and Homelander. Homelander has his issues. They illustrate his issues pretty straightforward about how he, about what he, his lack of parental figures growing up because he was grown in a lab. It's such a great dissection of how this world kind of affects every character uniquely and individually, and it's definitely worth watching. It is so good, and I'm looking forward to season 2 to see where they go with this. Because especially when they're bringing in a character, Stormfront, who's meant to be a neo-Nazi, played by Aya Cash. I'm looking forward to see where they go with this in season 2. I don't want to get too deep into it because you haven't watched it yet. There's a lot to a lot to spoil potentially. So definitely, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. Now, that's really all I have to say about that, because it's a great show. I'm not going to sit here and I don't want to spoil it. I really don't, because a lot of what goes on in here is it's very gory. But it feels at the same time kind of grounded in reality. And this is what would happen if superheroes really did exist. If they really did exist, this is what would happen. So, this brings us to our second thing, Bonds of Brass. And really what I want to talk about with Bonds of Brass is the concept. This I'm going to spoil. Okay, so if you have not read Bonds of Brass, which just came out a few months ago, maybe skip past this part 2. The part about, the part at the end about 3022. I'm gonna spoil this, because really what I want to talk about this is the concept of, and 3, 1, the unreliable narrator and the use of first person in fiction. And what I mean by that is when you're going to dive into reading, if you're going to read a book and you're going to set up this world and you're going to, buy into it, first person is something that you're encountering a lot now, especially in young adult fiction. Because first person allows you to feel more involved, considering you're taking the role of the main character, which is fine. I like that idea, and a lot of times it really works. Like the Hunger Games capitalized on that, and really did a lot with that. And it allows you to have this sense of unknown. You don't know what's going on outside of what you see with the main character, which adds to a sense of dread that goes with it. Here's the thing, though. You need to establish the context for what's happening if what you're going to do, what's going on here, ends up happening. And what I mean by that is, in this book, at the majority of the book, we follow the main character, Edion. He helps his boyfriend Gal escape, because it turns out he's the heir to the Empire that took over the galaxy, and he helps. And throughout the book, he talks about his past, but not specifically to Gal or to his the other girl, Wen, who he picks up along the way. He narrates it to the audience through his inner monologue. There might have been one thing early on where he discusses how, this is actually a book he's written and that's the context for what this is, but I don't recall that. I don't think that actually happened. Because, that's something that would be weirdly out of place if it's, because he talks in the past tense and all of that. So, the whole plan of the book is that they're going to, in an effort to get him back, Edion wants Gal to assume the throne of his mother, because his mother's a ruthless dictator, but he wants Gal there because Gal's an idealist who believes in nonviolence and pacifism, and he won't create the same issues that his mother did, which is cool. Okay, I like that. Okay, great. So the plan is to cause an invasion using the remnants of the empire that Edion is from, which they stumble upon in their travels. They find the remnants of his empire. They go out into, they launch an invasion with faulty information intentionally, so that way the invasion will be crushed. Gal is a hero to the Umber Empire, and, he can assume the throne under that guise. Great plan all around. It's actually one of the better plans I've seen in a book like this, because it's interesting and it's unique. Then the plan goes off the rails in the weirdest way, where they get there, they launch the invasion doesn't fail, the governor just gives up. And now the Archon Empire has won. They've seized this planet back. The planet of Rana. Herein lies the big problem, though. At the end, now Gal is in custody, and humiliated, because now it's we have the prince of, the Umber Empire. We're going to, this is just, we've won. We have won decisively, and you will not stop us, because we have him in custody. And the issue is now, in an effort to break him out, Edion outs himself as the heir to the Archon Empire. His parents were the king and queen. They both got killed when they were deposed, when the planet fell to the Umber Empire. And, this is information that is entirely new to the reader. Never set up, never discussed, never mentioned, never anything like that. Which kind of throws the entire thing out of whack, because now we're stuck. How much of what we read was true? How much of... And I get that is the point of the unreliable narrator. Sorry, I got a notification on my phone. That is the point of the unreliable narrator, is that it creates this doubt in the reader in what am I doing. So, Deadpool's an unreliable narrator, because Deadpool is going to put things on, his spin on things when he tells a story, which is fine, and it works for Deadpool. In a case like this, it puts us in a weird situation now, because if we're reading a book where his inner monologue is lying to us, that's weird. That's a strange situation altogether. So, now when we go into a sequel, because this is the first in a trilogy that's, that we know of, if we go into the second book now, and we're looking at it, and we're, now, can we believe what he says? I would like to, if they're doing it in the second book, maybe do a split perspective to Gal and Edian. Because I'd like to see Gal's reaction to that. Because that's a lot. Like, because throughout the entire book, he's always, he's always criticizing Gal for constantly lying to him through the entire time they were friends before the reveal that Gal is the heir of the Umber Empire. And I feel like that, like, and then the entire time it's like, you were lying to me too. And that's a huge thing for them to omit. And a huge thing for Gal to not get, considering we know how much Gal saw the propaganda that was being used by his parents during the war against the Arkan Empire. And it's a big thing for him to not notice. Maybe he just was willfully not seeing it, which is what I think is what the case is. He just willfully didn't see it. But we don't really I want to see Gal's perspective on that in the next book. I want to see where he came from, and why he did it. Up until the very ending, this is a very good book, and it's just that ending. It feels like, because, and the thing is, if the plot resolution didn't hinge on that reveal, it would have been better. It feels like a Deus Ex Machina, considering that, like, at no point is it mentioned, like, oh, he picks up the ring, oh, he does this, yeah, oh, he's got, there's no reference to it up until this point. And there's no reason for there not to be. Considering that, like, it's an inner monologue we're reading. We're reading his inner monologue, and because we're doing that, we have no reason for him not to mention this, or for him to lie in his own inner monologue. Especially considering that it's not like he was, hiding it from himself because he was because, like, he had, PTSD, he was afraid of something, or he was, he was ashamed of it. He was conditioned not to think about it, because the minute he had to, he whipped that card right out. He had it, like, he had it in his hand, he just wouldn't play it the entire time, and all of a sudden he whips it out, plays it, and that's that. It just feels weird. Not quite forced, but just weird, and it feels kind of like, it feels like a lazy resolution, kind of like we didn't know how we were going to end this, so we'll throw this on there, that'll be the end of the book. But here's the thing, if you want to read this book, definitely go ahead and read it. The whole book is very fun. I love the entire character of Wen, who I'm going to keep in mind, I'm pronouncing them the way I pronounce it in the audiobook. I don't read books physically, I listen to audiobooks while I drive. So I'm pronouncing the character names the way they're pronounced in the audiobook. Which is why I don't do text reviews of books usually, because then it requires me to look up the spelling of things that I don't have the physical book in front of me. I have, like, if I had to sit there and figure out how to spell Chasnachatic, or, like, as it turns out, Will Lark. Will is W-Y-L for some reason, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce Edian, or spell Edian, but definitely worth checking this book out. You can probably get it at Barnes & Noble. I mean, it's on audiobook, and it's from Penguin Random House, so you can probably get it at Barnes & Noble, now that Barnes & Noble has reopened. But it is definitely worth your time to read, especially if you're, slightly toward the lower end of our target demographic of 18 to 25. But it's definitely worth your time. It's great LGBT representation, and it's definitely worth, reading. And despite the fact that I kind of crapped on how the book resolved, it does kind of make me really interested to see how they go from here. Where do they go from here? Because that's a pretty big shift in the paradigm to just leave on a cliffhanger for everything. So we'll wrap up there, which brings us to our third review today, the movie 3022, which is a small release from Paramount late last year. I don't think it even had a major theatrical release. Here's the thing with this movie. When you do low-budget science fiction, the most important thing is, like, the story and the acting. Because people will forgive bad effects and bad visual effects and bad sound and all that if the story's good. So movies like, The Immortal Wars, which we reviewed on 30-minute reviews, I'm sorry, I'm aware of spoilers, earlier this year, it's like, the story isn't good, the characters aren't good, there's nothing redeeming about it, the sound mixing is terrible, the effects are terrible, and it was low budget. That doesn't mean the movie, it's a movie that I would watch again only because it's one of those so bad it's good movies, because the effects are so bad that it's kind of funny to watch. But this movie isn't that. The effects are pretty solid. The story's not terrible. It's not a bad movie. I mean, it's okay. That's probably why most people haven't heard of it. Because if a movie's really bad or really good, then you've heard of it. But if it's just okay, you kind of just, whatever. It's there. So, Miranda Cosgrove has a kind of, okay performance. It's not anything special. I think Katie Walsh doesn't have a great... the acting is, a little subpar in this movie. The effects aren't great for what they are, but a lot of it seemed to be practical. So it's worth checking out, but I wouldn't pay full price for it. If it ends up on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something, or you're the person who won the giveaway, maybe check it out there. But I wouldn't pay $10 for a DVD for this. I don't think it's worth that. But I wouldn't say it's not worth your time. I would say it's not worth the money to view the movie if you're not going to get it as part of a streaming service. Which is Paramount. I think Paramount has their own streaming service coming soon. So yeah. I think we'll wrap up there for today. Final consensus: watch The Boys if you have not watched it already. Read Bonds of Brass if you have not read it. Get it from your local library, or get it from Barnes & Noble, or get it on Audible, or get it anywhere. Just don't get it. Don't pirate it. Please don't pirate it. I don't like piracy. And 3022, if you can get it and you can watch it on Netflix or something. I don't know if it's on there. I wouldn't recommend. It's not good enough to warrant paying full price to watch just that movie. It's fine. What was that movie? Time Hole, Time Pit, Time Trap, something like that. That was on Netflix. It's fine. It's not great. It's really not great. Fine is overselling. It's not a good movie, but it's entertaining because it's it's overacted and it's kind of funny in that regard. But it's not worth paying full price for it. So we'll be back next week with another movie, maybe another book. We'll see what I get through this week. Definitely going to have a review of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, the rehydrated edition. I'm going to pick that up now, and we'll be back with that next week. So until then, have a great rest of your week.